Well, this is a familiar beginning to a video. Seems like I've done one like this not that long ago. Ruger Precision Rimfire rifle. I had one of these years ago. I sold it, and I kind of missed it. I always wondered what I could do better if I had it again, so I went out and bought another one. But in this particular case, this one's a little bit different. When I bought my second Ruger Precision Rimfire in 22 long rifle, there was actually a 22 WMR at the store. And I wrestled with it for about 3 days before finally taking home the 22 LR, because the original intent of buying that gun was to see if I could get better results out of it than I did with my first one by just doing simple things like tightening up the handguard, tightening up the pick rail, making sure that everything was torqued down correctly. So I'd been looking for a 22 WMR precision rimfire for several months. They don't show up very often, at least not where I am. So I was perusing a local shop, and I showed up actually not long before they closed, probably 20 minutes before they closed on the day that I bought this. And I walked in and I said, "Hey guys, I want to buy this rifle. Can you possibly make it happen for me?" And they said, "Sure, let's get the paperwork going." So shop was gracious. They were able to get all the paperwork done. I picked up a couple extra goodies for this one, a couple extra mags and a piece of pick rail, a Magpul MOE K2 grip because they're a little bit straighter than the standard one, and I got this really cool compensator off of eBay. This guy machines these himself and sells them in small quantities. They're a little bit pricey, but I think it's going to be pretty cool for this build. And before I take this 22 WMR precision rimfire out to the range, I want to do what I should have done on my original 22 LR. Take the time to tighten everything down, make sure that the handguard is steady, make sure that the pick rail is nice and stable, make sure that all of the bolts in this thing are tightened down to spec before I take it out and shoot it, to make sure that I'm going to have the best chance possible at getting some good, reliable accuracy out of this gun. So started out grabbing just some hand tools, going through and tightening down every single one of the bolts on the pick rail, making sure these are all tightened down correctly. After which I proceeded to flip the rifle upside down. I took the stock and the hand grip off of it so that I could get into the main action. And once I had the action apart, I tightened down all of the bolts on the handguard. I made sure that everything felt nice and tight and snug, that nothing was loose, nothing was walking around. And, again, just tightened up all the screws to make sure that everything was as good as it could go before I started using this thing. After I got it back together, I did a 3-pull test on the trigger weight and ended up with 2 pounds, 1.3 ounces. And that was right out of the box. Something else I noticed about the 22 WMR over the 22 long rifle, this one has a 0 MOA rail on it, where the 22 long rifle one has a 30 MOA rail. I also noticed on this one, on the bottom of the handguard, it had a parting line from the casting. A little bit unsightly, but, these are made in high quantities, and they're not really that expensive of a gun, so it doesn't really bother me that much. Now, the scope I chose for this build is the BSA Sweet 22. This is only a 3-9 by 40, but maybe eventually I'll get a bigger scope with more magnification. I always wanted to get something like up to a 24 power, but I can't even shoot that accurately. So starting at the tip with that nice muzzle brake or that compensator, the pick rail that I mounted on the bottom of the handguard, a CCOP bipod, that BSA scope with some inexpensive rings, and unfortunately the rings that I chose for this were the wrong size. They were 30 millimeter, so I had to put spacers in them. I do have the correct rings coming with a 1-inch diameter inside hole, so I'll change those out eventually. There's that nice grip that I have on there, the K2 grip. And once again, this is kind of a budget build. I don't have a whole lot of money in the aftermarket accessories on this yet. And when I do take it out and try it out to get some really good accurate shooting out of this, I don't really plan on using the bipod. If there's one thing I've learned over the last few times that I've tried to do accuracy testing with these rifles, anytime I have one of these CCOP bipods on here, they walk around a lot, and I really do have some issues with my consistency. So a lot of people have told me over the years that the best thing you can do is use sandbags on the front and rear or a lead sled, but using a lead sled really takes the human interaction out of shooting, and I like feeling the firearm. So for me, I will use sandbags when I take this thing out. I do have to buy some better tall front sandbags. The ones I have are kind of short. So this is going to be a fun project. I want to shoot this alongside my Ruger American in 22 Magnum, as well as alongside my Ruger Precision Rimfire in 22 LR, to see if I can get better accuracy out of one versus the other one. I really do enjoy these rifles. They're just, pretty good build for the price you pay for them. All in all, you can usually get these rifles for around $5. And then if you throw a decent scope on it and a few other minor modifications, you can make these pretty good shooters. So I am interested to see if this one is more accurate than the 22 LR. I love these rifles. I'm glad that I had the chance to buy both the 22 LR and the 22 WMR. Thanks again for joining me on this edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. I appreciate everybody that watches my channel. Have a great day. God bless America. Support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot. And you remember, if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, you remind them that freedom is always the greater good.